welcome or welcome back to Planet Mars. Me and my puppy would like to say hi. We hope you're doing good and having a good day. Isn't that right, little pupper? Today I will be discussing Tourette Syndrome. I will be discussing what it is, why it's hard to tell I have it, my experience with discrimination, and then down below I'll be putting a link so you can see for yourself what Tourette Syndrome is, you can read about it, and I encourage anyone that's watching this video, if they want to know more about, I would say, severe Tourette's, to follow Evie Meg. Now, I would describe my Tourette Syndrome as mild to moderate. But first, let me tell you what Tourette Syndrome is. It's unwanted motor tics. So this would be an example. I'm not having a tic right now. I'm just giving you an example of what it can look like. And it's uttering unwanted phrases or sounds. Now for me, it can be full sentences. So that's what Tourette Syndrome is. It can injure you. It's very serious if you have severe Tourette Syndrome. Not everybody has severe Tourette Syndrome. You might have even met people who have it and you don't even know, because some of us can hold back our tics to an extent for a time. Now, that's not to say people like Evie Meg should be judged because they can't hold back their tics. They have severe Tourette Syndrome. In fact, no one should be judged for not holding back their tics, in my opinion. In a perfect world, we could just let them go, because it hurts and it's stressful and it's hard to hold back tics. But I still choose to. So another thing is coprolalia. A few people, I'm not sure how many with Tourette's, have coprolalia. Coprolalia is rude phrases. So maybe you just have Tourette's, so you'll be like bark or Jersey Mike's. I don't know, something like that. But if you have coprolalia, you can say rude things. You can utter curse words, slurs, homophobic things, just the worst things if you have coprolalia. I unfortunately have coprolalia. So while I would consider myself an okay person, I'm not racist nor homophobic, I can say things like that, and it really sucks. So I think now that I've covered what Tourette Syndrome is, let's go with, and I've covered a little bit of why it might be hard I have it. To know that I have it, let's dive deeper into that. So, my old psychiatrist used to like to meet me in the office every once in a while, because when we talked over Zoom, he noticed that it was a lot easier for me to hold back my tics. But once I'm in public around other people, it was harder, so he needed to monitor how much harder that was, what my anxiety was, things like that. So while in front of the camera, it's just me and my dogs, I'm not really that nervous. I don't even feel like I need to hold back tics right now. But when I get out in public, that's when they want to start coming up, and that's when I kind of have to focus on redirecting my tics to just, it's hard to explain, but you redirect your tics. So if I want to have a motor tic, I don't. Or I would say if my Tourette's wants me to have a motor tic, I try to focus the energy somewhere else in my body and not have that motor tic, although it is very rare for me to have motor tics, and I usually only have them when I'm very stressed out. Now, the vocal tics, that's more of a thing for me. So when I'm trying not to have vocal tics, I just have to, I know what my Tourette's wants me to say, kind of take a deep breath, kind of try to feel my surroundings, you know, the old 3 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel technique, things like that, and it helps sometimes. And also, my tics are quiet and under my breath, unlike other people. Now, my sister, she has loud tics when she does have her tics, so she's different than me. She will say things out loud. She has coprolalia too, so she will say offensive things. But over the years, I think she's gotten better at holding her tics back than I am. It takes practice, so. And she gave me a lot of advice on how to hold back my tics. Really appreciate her. Now, for my experience with discrimination. I can't speak for all people with Tourette's. I know of one story where a man was discriminated against the family of his roommate said that people like him are isolated their whole lives and they could snap any minute. So he better be nice to him and better stop bullying him for his Tourette's. I know a girl on TikTok who her roommates would tell her, could you just stop that? Obviously not, it's Tourette's. So, obviously, people with Tourette's aren't dangerous, necessarily. Anyone can be dangerous, but people with Tourette's aren't necessarily dangerous because of our Tourette's. I think the worst that can happen is we might accidentally hit you or such. And we'll get more into my experience in a minute. I want to talk about some other things I know about Tourette's. I knew this one girl from TikTok, and when I say I knew, I just watched them on TikTok, who her Tourette's got a lot worse after she had a kid. Which makes sense because it changes the hormones in your body, which can affect your brain, I guess. I'm not a doctor. And hers went from more mild to, like, extreme. So there's that. If you want a person with mild Tourette's, if you want to watch them, all I can say is watch me. I've seen a few people react to people faking Tourette's. And I'm not big on fake claiming because I'm a doctor, so I can't tell who's faking and who's not. But, alright, now for the tough stuff. My experience with discrimination. So, I stayed at a hospital once, and that was pretty bad. I hadn't slept in 6 days because I had a bad reaction to medication. And the nurses were hell-bent on believing every tick I had. I also felt like I was living a waking nightmare because I was constantly worried about everything, and including worried that I would be a bad person, that I would do bad things, that would hurt people. So I was ticking about that. And instead of asking me what's wrong, or can we help you, what can we do, why is this happening, they just proceeded to mock me the whole time, allow other patients to harass me, allow other patients to break the rules. They really put those other patients in danger too because they weren't helping them with their distress. So that's how that went down. It wasn't very fun, but I survived. As far as that hospital goes, it's got the worst ratings of any hospital in the state, and I wish I had never gone there when I had that bad reaction to the medication. That made me stay up for 6 days. I kept taking it because I was like, oh, well, I'm having symptoms, so I should keep taking my medicine and my symptoms will go away. No, I was one of the 1 in 1,000 people, I think, that had a bad reaction to it, so that's fun. And then as far as other discrimination goes, I've had people believe every tick I've had and seriously hate me and try to fuck me over for it. I've had people go through my personal devices, take messages out of context, and believe all my tics. And the thing about my tics is, I've been discussing this with my therapist. They are the opposite of my personality. Because, like I said, I'm not racist nor homophobic, but I have coprolalia, so I can say those things. Also, they have to do with the way people perceive me sometimes. Without giving too much information, if I'm worried I'm going to say something, or I'm worried someone's going to think something, it makes me say that. That's pretty obvious to anyone who has half a brain cell, but not to abusers, so moving on. And then lastly, what have I learned from having Tourette's and why I'm actually kind of grateful for these lessons? Now, don't get me wrong, if I could choose not to have Tourette's, I would choose not to have Tourette's immediately. The only thing about it that I don't experience is I don't usually catch tics from other people, but everything else is bad. But I have learned a thing or two. So I've been told that I'm well-spoken, and I guess that's because I can't choose what I say all the time. I've also been told that it seems like, on the outside, it can seem like I care about material things, and don't get me wrong, I do. But what I really care about is people, and that's true. I don't really care. I had an ex who was motivated. He cared whether people were intelligent or not. Or it seemed that he cared whether people were intelligent or not, but what he really cared about under the surface was education. He wanted everyone to get an education. And that's cool. I try not to consider people less intelligent than I am. I think what really matters And if you're on Tumblr, then you're probably following this latest trend that intelligence does not equal morality. And that is definitely true. A lot of people that are considered less intelligent are very good people. So what's it matter if if their IQ, which is totally false and made up anyway, isn't as high as everybody else's? Wow, that was a ramble. Alright, guys. Also, I've been told I'm a very nice lady by a couple of people, and I appreciate that because I try to be nice. When I was younger, before Tourette's really set in and got bad, I was a little judgmental, and by younger I mean like 10, of people with certain disorders, certain mental disorders, mostly people who harm themselves bodily. Because I said, well, even if they had such a horrible life, there are people out there that had it, bad, but they don't do that. I was 10, so give me a little bit of a break. Since having my own mental illness, I have learned it's not a choice, that nobody can control whether they have a mental illness or not. I've learned that, and this is why I don't like fake claiming. Oftentimes people will be like, oh, well, it has to be fake because they have so many mental illnesses. A lot of mental illnesses are co-occurring. So if you have one, you might be at higher risk to have another. In fact, just for you guys, I actually dug out, I'm not going to show you anything in here, but this is my medical history. Some of this is physical, don't worry. I mean, what all is in here? There's therapy worksheets, there's a lot of information about my medication, and then there's my diagnosis. So if someone's been diagnosed more than once, that probably means they've switched psychiatrists. And I've switched psychiatrists before, either because I had to move or I just wasn't clicking with somebody, or they say had insurance after not having insurance. I know that when I first went to a psychologist, which is where you should really go to, I was like, yo, what all up with me? And they did a test and all that stuff, and they found what was wrong with me, and I was pretty satisfied, except for the fact that I didn't go into the details about my OCD. And after going to therapy, I realized that I really needed to go into the details about my OCD. I needed to talk about it, I needed to be honest with it, I needed to say, yes, I have OCD, here are the symptoms. Or at least, I thought I had OCD. I turned out to be right, because I do have OCD. But for a long time I denied it. When I was younger, I was diagnosed because I went to a psychiatrist? Yeah, or a psychologist. I don't know. I was a kid. This was back when my Tourette's first came, and he diagnosed me with OCD, but neither me or my parents believed it because I don't know. He didn't really explain it very well. OCD is way more than washing your hands. I mean, contamination OCD is a thing, and I feel so sorry for people that have it because it's hard to deal with, but I have a different type of OCD. So for my diagnostic paperwork, and I looked at this, I was like, okay, do I have mild? I need to be completely honest because I never look at my diagnosis paperwork. So I don't always, say the scientific things for what I have. But it just says Tourette's disorder. It doesn't say mild or moderate, but I told the person, my second psychologist that I went to after I got health insurance to get diagnosed with OCD, told them what was going on with me, how I have to hold back tics, mentioned the motor tics. At first, I didn't think I had motor tics because they are so rare for me. I thought they were muscle spasms. But after a time, I realized that the things that were going on weren't normal, so I told them about that. But don't worry, fake claimers. I also told them I was just scared they might just be spasms and stuff. But, yeah. And then it just says I have dyslexia, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you guys really care about all that. Maybe I'll read it off one day. I know someone's going to want to see it, and when you do, when you ask for it, when you're like, show proof, I'm going to rickroll your ass. Anyways, guys, I hope this helped you understand Tourette Syndrome a little better. If you want to know more about it, I would suggest following Evie Meg. I think recently she learned she has something other than Tourette Syndrome, though, but she does have a lot of information on Tourette Syndrome. If you don't want to follow her, you can follow Witch with Tics. She does have Tourette Syndrome, and she lives her life normally and shows people how hard it is. These are people, like I said, these are people with severe Tourette Syndrome, if that's even a correct label. I just know mine isn't that bad. And as far as people that have mild Tourette Syndrome, I don't really know a lot of them. So I don't see them on the internet. We don't really talk about it so much because it doesn't affect our lives as much as it would affect the lives of people where they can't hold it back, is my theory. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you learn a little bit more about mental illness and such, and it's been good talking to you guys as always. Bye bye.